Have EA Sports actually saved career mode? Because after years of recycled features, frustrating transfer negotiations, unrealistic player growth and career modes that all felt exactly the same, EA are promising one of the biggest overhauls we've seen in years. From a completely rebuilt transfer system, to dynamic player ratings, brand new ways to negotiate deals, more realistic squad building, and features that career mode players have been asking for years. But are these genuine game-changing additions, or is this just another case of EA making features sound better than they actually are? Let's find out. I'm Hawks, and welcome to RiotKick. EA have officially released the EA Sports FC 27 Career Mode Deep Dive, and today we're breaking down absolutely everything you need to know. No clickbait, no skipping over the important details, we're going through the biggest new features, the smaller improvements hidden away in the pitch notes, and I'll be giving my own thoughts throughout the video on whether these changes are actually going to make career mode better. And if you're excited for FC 27, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments what career mode save are you starting first. Now, let's jump into it. One thing that immediately stood out while reading these pitch notes is that EA aren't talking about career mode the same way they usually do. Normally, we get one or two headline features, maybe a couple of quality of life updates, and that's about it. But this year feels different. Instead of adding one flashy mechanic and calling it a day, EA say they've rebuilt several of career mode's core systems from the ground up, with a focus on realism, immersion, and long-term variety. And honestly, that's exactly what career mode is needed. But let's be real. How many times have you started a new save, only for it to become almost identical after 3 or 4 seasons? Every Wonder Kid reaches 90 overall, every transfer window feels predictable, the same players move to the same clubs, and eventually every save starts feeling exactly the same. That lack of unpredictability has become one of career mode's biggest problems. According to EA, that's something they're trying to solve this year. What I actually like here is that EA aren't just adding more buttons to press, they're trying to make the football world react around you. Instead of everything revolving around your club, other managers will now make different decisions. Clubs will behave differently, player values will fluctuate, negotiations become much more detailed, and football should feel more alive than previous years. Now, whether all of that actually works in game, we obviously won't know until we've spent dozens of hours playing career mode ourselves, because we've all seen brilliant locking deep dives before, only to discover a month later that half the features don't work exactly as advertised, so I'm keeping one foot on the brake while still being genuinely excited. EA have clearly listened, at least on paper. Reading through these pitch notes, it's obvious EA have taken feedback from career mode players seriously. Things people have complained about for years are finally being addressed: transfer negotiations, player progression, manager movement, financial realism, contract options, squad planning. These aren't tiny cosmetic improvements, these are systems career mode players interact with every single season, and improving those systems has the potential to completely change how every save plays out. If EA get this right, career mode won't just be better in year 1, it'll stay interesting much further into a save, instead of becoming repetitive after a handful of seasons. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this entire deep dive. They're trying to improve the journey, not just the beginning. Coming away from this opening section, I'm cautiously optimistic. Do I think EA have suddenly made the perfect career mode? Absolutely not. They still have a lot to prove once we actually get our hands on the game. But this is probably the most ambitious set of career mode changes we've seen in several years. There are genuine attempts to improve realism, add more unpredictability, and make every save feel different. Now the question is, how exactly are they going to do that? Well, it starts with what I think could become one of the biggest additions in FC 27, Manager Live. This might be the feature that completely changes how people play career mode. Until now, every save have followed the exact same structure. You pick a club, start at the beginning of the season, and play from there. If you wanted something different, you had to create it yourself. Maybe you deliberately sell your best players, maybe you'd limit your transfer budget, maybe you'd invent your own storyline just to keep the save interesting. But FC27 is trying to change that. Manager Live introduces live scenarios inspired by what's happening in real football. Instead of always beginning with a blank slate, you'll be able to jump into different situations with unique objectives and challenges. For example, one week you might be taking over a club battling relegation, the next you could be thrown into a title race where every point matters. Or maybe you'll inherit a squad dealing with injuries, poor form, or financial problems. Every challenge has different objectives, different rewards, and a completely different story to tell. And honestly, I absolutely love this idea. One of career mode's biggest problems has always been replayability. After you've done a road to glory, won the Champions League, rebuilt Manchester United, or taken Wrexham to the Premier League, what's next? Eventually, every save starts feeling familiar. Manager Live gives players a reason to keep coming back. Instead of waiting until the next EA Sports FC, there'll be fresh scenarios throughout the season. That means your next career mode challenge doesn't have to begin in August. It could begin in February, or after a disastrous run of form, or with 10 games left to save a club from relegation. That's a completely different experience. Now, my thoughts is for content creators especially, this is huge. Imagine weekly career mode challenges based on real football. Can you save Everton? Can you win the league with Arsenal from this position? Can you qualify for Europe before the season ends? Every week could bring a brand new challenge. That opens the door for so much more variety on YouTube. Instead of everyone making the exact same rebuild videos, creators can jump into live scenarios that everyone can play themselves. That's brilliant. But I do have one concern. EA haven't fully explained how often these scenarios will arrive. Will we get new challenges every week? Every month? Only around major football moments? The more frequently they're updated, the better this feature then becomes. If EA supports it consistently throughout the year, Manager Live could genuinely be one of the greatest additions to a career mode ever. But if it launches with a handful of scenarios and then gets forgotten, then obviously that's going to be disappointing. So this is definitely one to be keeping an eye on. We will also be doing Manager Live on RiotKick, so do stay tuned. The next improvement is another one that career mode fans have been asking for, authentic managers. Instead of creating your own manager nearly every single save, FC27 lets you step into the shoes of real life managers. And not only that, but their technical identities, philosophies, and starting situations are designed to reflect the real football world. That immediately makes a save feel much more believable. Imagine taking charge as Pep Guardiola, or Mikel Arteta, or Arne Slot. You're not just managing Manchester City, Arsenal, or Liverpool, you're continuing their story. That's a really cool touch. Different identities. One thing EA have focused on this year is making managers feel different from one another. Different tactical philosophies, different approaches to football, different expectations, different styles of play. That means choosing a manager isn't just a cosmetic decision anymore. It actually helps shape the experience. And I think that's something career mode has been missing for a long time. Too often, every manager felt exactly the same. Only the face changed. Now, your tactical identity should actually matter. Does this improve the immersion? Absolutely. Little details like this make career mode feel much more authentic, because football isn't just about controlling 11 players, it's about personalities, club philosophies, different coaching styles, different expectations from fans and the board. If EA can keep capturing that feeling, career mode instantly becomes much more immersive. Manager Live is probably the feature I'm most excited to try, not because it's the flashiest, but because it has the potential to completely change how often people return to career mode. Meanwhile, authentic manager careers finally make managers feel like more than just a custom avatar standing on the touchline. Neither feature is revolutionary on its own, but together they push career mode towards feeling like a living football world instead of a disconnected sandbox. And honestly, that's exactly the direction this mode needed. Of course, a manager is only as good as the club they're building, and that brings us to another huge addition in FC27, because EA have completely changed how managers move around the football world. With an all-new manager market and dynamic career opportunities, let's take a look at that next. So your reputation actually matters. Another thing I really like is that your managerial reputation should now play a much bigger role. The better you perform, the more opportunities you learn. If you're building exciting football, developing young talent, winning trophies, or exceeding expectations, bigger clubs are naturally going to start paying attention. That's exactly how football works. You're earning your next move, instead of simply waiting for career mode to hand one to you. This is one of those features that might not sound exciting on paper, but it could completely change how saves feel after 4, 5 or even 10 seasons. One criticism career mode always has had is that eventually the football world becomes predictable. The same clubs dominate, the same players move around, managers barely change, everything starts feeling frozen. If manager market works properly, every save should slowly become its own unique football universe, and that's something career mode has desperately needed. Another area EA have expanded this year is club events. Now admittedly, this isn't the flashiest feature in the deep dive, you won't be scoring 30-yard screamers because of it, but it all adds towards making career mode feel much more believable. Instead of every season feeling identical, different situations can now affect your club throughout the year. Unexpected moments, changing circumstances, new challenges, things that force you to react. Football is unpredictable, career mode should be too. Sometimes it's the little things that keep save interesting. Maybe your board changes expectations, maybe financial priorities shift, maybe circumstances forces you into changing your plans halfway through a season. Real football managers don't get to plan everything perfectly, they have to adapt, and hopefully club events will finally bring more of that unpredictability into career mode. Tactical identity. Now this might actually be one of my favourite improvements in the entire deep dive, because EA are putting much more emphasis on tactical identity. Every club should now feel like, well, that club. Every club should play differently. Think about it. Liverpool shouldn't play like Atletico Madrid. Barcelona shouldn't play like Burnley. Brighton shouldn't play like Inter Milan. Every club has its own philosophy, its own identity, its own style of football. That's something career mode has never fully captured. After a couple of seasons, everyone started playing pretty similarly. Now EA are aiming to preserve those identities for much longer, which means the football world should stay much more authentic as seasons progress. This impacts more than just matches. Tactical identity isn't just about how teams play on the pitch, it should influence the kind of players clubs target, the football they want to build, the profile of managers they hire, and the overall direction of the club. That's a really smart addition, because football clubs aren't just collections of players, they're built around philosophies. This is where multiple new systems start working together. Manager market, authentic managers, club identity, they're all connected. If clubs have stronger identities, they'll hire managers that suit them. Managers will move around naturally, the football world changes. Different clubs develop differently, and suddenly, career mode isn't just about your save anymore, it's about what's happening everywhere else too. That's exactly the immersion career mode has been missing. My only concern, as always, this all comes down to execution. The ideas are fantastic, but if Manchester City suddenly decide they're becoming a long ball team, or Barcelona abandon possession football after one season, then the illusion disappears pretty quickly, so EA have to set themselves a very high standard here. The systems sound excellent, now they need to actually work consistently over multiple seasons. So far, I'm really impressed with the direction EA are taking. None of these features are designed to grab attention with flashy trailers. Instead, they're trying to improve the things career mode players experience every single season, making managers matter, making careers evolve naturally, making the football world feel alive. If these systems all work together, career mode could finally have the depth it's been missing for years. Of course, none of that matters if signing players still feel unrealistic, and thankfully, EA haven't ignored that either, because FC27 introduces one of the biggest overhauls to transfers, negotiations, and club finances we've ever seen in career mode. Let's dive into it. Let's be honest, the transfer market has needed an overhaul for years. Every career mode save eventually reached the same point. You'd sign whoever you wanted, sell whoever you didn't, and within 2 or 3 seasons your squad barely resembled reality. Negotiations became predictable, budgets became meaningless, and the transfer market slowly lost its excitement. Well, EA are looking to change that. One of the biggest focuses this year is making transfer negotiations feel much more realistic. Every club shouldn't negotiate the same way anymore. Some clubs will be tougher to deal with, others may be willing to negotiate quickly. Some clubs simply won't want to strengthen direct rivals. Others might demand far higher fees, because they know they hold all the cards, and honestly, that's exactly how football should work. Every deal should feel different. Think about real football. Trying to buy a player from a rival club is completely different to buying from a smaller league. Different clubs value players differently. Different boards have different expectations. Different managers have different priorities. Career mode has often ignored all of that. Instead, every negotiation felt like following the exact same checklist. Agree a fee, agree wages, done. Hopefully, that's about to change. Another thing EA are expanding is how players react to transfers. Not every footballer should immediately agree to join your club. Some players will care about Champions League football, their role in the squad, club ambitions, financial packages, league reputation, and managerial vision, and even where their career currently stands. That immediately makes building a squad feel much more rewarding, because now you have to convince players that your project is worth joining, not simply just throw money at them. Now, this next part might not sound exciting, but it could have one of the biggest impacts on career mode. EA have made several improvements to club finances and budgeting, and for players who enjoy long-term saves, that's really important. Money should actually matter, because one criticism of the previous career modes is that after a few successful seasons, money almost stopped being relevant. You'd have hundreds of millions sitting in the bank. Buying another superstar became a routine. Your challenge disappeared. Football doesn't work like that. Even the biggest clubs still have financial decisions to make. Budgets change, owners invest, commercial income rises, unexpected costs appear, financial planning matters. Career mode should reflect that. These financial improvements should encourage smarter planning. Instead of simply buying the highest rated player available, you'll hopefully need to think more carefully about who fits your squad, who represents value for money, who has room to develop, and whether signing one superstar is actually worth sacrificing depth elsewhere. Those are decisions real managers and sporting directors face every single transfer window. Squad building should feel more rewarding. This is something I've always believed. The best career mode saves aren't the ones where you sign Mbappe after 2 seasons. They're the ones where you discover a wonder kid, develop academy of talent, make clever signings, sell players at the right time, and replace them successfully, and slowly build something special. If FC27 makes your journeys more rewarding, that's a huge win. The really clever thing here is none of these features exist on their own. Manager market affects club direction, club identity affects recruitment, transfers become more realistic, financial decisions become more important, player personalities affect negotiations. Every system feeds into one another. Instead of feeling like separate additions, they're building one connected career mode experience. And honestly, that's exactly what career mode has needed. I don't think these changes will generate flashy headlines. People naturally get excited about new celebrations, new skill moves, or graphical improvements. But for career mode players, this is arguably the most important section of the entire deep dive, because these are the systems you'll interact with every single season. Every transfer window, every negotiation, every contract, and every financial decision. If EA gets this right, career mode becomes far more engaging over the long term. The only thing I'm waiting to see is how much freedom players still have, because realism is fantastic. But career mode also needs to remain fun. If every negotiation becomes frustrating, or every transfer becomes impossible, that could become annoying very quickly. So hopefully EA have found the right balance between realism and enjoyable gameplay. Overall, this feels like a very smart evolution rather than a complete overhaul. Instead of reinventing transfers, EA are trying to make every decision feel more believable. And when you combine that with everything we've already discussed, career mode is starting to feel more connected than ever before. So we've covered how you manage your club, build your squads, and shape your career. But what about developing the players already at your club? Because EA also made significant changes to youth academy, player development, and progression. Let's see whether this is finally the year academy players become more than just high potential prospects. Now, if you're anything like me, one of the most satisfying parts of career mode isn't signing a £120 million superstar, it's finding a 16-year-old wonder kid that nobody else has heard of, developing them over 5 or 6 seasons, and eventually watching them lift the Champions League as your captain. That's what makes career mode special, and thankfully, EA seems to understand that, because FC27 introduces some meaningful improvements to scouting, youth development, and player progression. Scouting is more than just overall. Let's start with scouting. Previous career modes often turned scouting into a numbers game. You'd search for players with great potential, wait a few weeks, check their overall, sign the best one, and repeat. It worked, but it wasn't exactly immersive. This year, EA wants scouting to feel much more like real football. You're not simply searching for the highest rated teenager anymore, you're looking for players who actually fit your club's identity, your tactical approach, your long-term vision, and honestly, that's how modern football works. Building a squad, not a collection of ratings. Football clubs don't just sign the highest rated player available. Liverpool recruit differently to Atletico Madrid, Brighton recruit differently to PSG, Barcelona recruit differently to Burnley. Every club has a profile they're looking for, and that's something career mode has struggled to replicate. If FC27 makes scouting feel more intelligent, building a squad suddenly becomes much more rewarding. Now let's talk about one of career mode's most loved features, the Youth Academy. For years, it's been one of the biggest reasons people sink hundreds of hours into a save. There's something incredibly satisfying about discovering your own talent, running them through the academy, and eventually seeing them become first-team stars. EA have expanded that journey this year, and I think that's exactly the right decision. Young players should feel unique, and that's one criticism I've always had. Academy players often ended up feeling very similar. Different names, different faces, but eventually they all developed into almost identical ways. What career mode really needs is individuality. Players who develop differently, players who peak at different ages, players with unique strengths and unique weaknesses. Football isn't linear. Not every teenager becomes a Ballon d'Or winner. Hopefully, FC27 reflects that much better. Player development has also received some important attention. Instead of simply sticking somebody on a development plan and waiting a few months, EA are trying to make progression feel much more connected to how players actually perform. And I really like that, because footballers don't develop inside a spreadsheet. They improve through playing, learning, confidence, good coaching, and experience. Career mode should reflect that. Every player should have a different journey, and that's another area where unpredictability is key. Sometimes players should improve rapidly, others might plateau. Some could exceed expectations, others may never fulfill their potential, but that's football. Every wonder kid doesn't become a superstar, and that's what making discovering the next big talent so exciting. If everybody reaches their potential every save, there's no surprise and there's no story. These improvements become even more important once you're 5, 6 or even 10 seasons into a career mode. At that point, most of your squad isn't made up of real footballers anymore. It's academy graduates, regens, new signings, generated players. If those players all develop differently, career mode instantly becomes far more interesting, because every save creates its own football history. This might actually be one of the most underrated parts of the entire deep dive. People naturally focus on transfers, managers live, or authentic managers. But if player development improves, you'll notice it every single season. Every academic graduate, every loan spell, every breakthrough youngster, every difficult decision about whether to keep developing someone or cash in and move on. Those are the stories that make career mode memorable. The one thing I'm hoping EA finally have nailed is balance, because previous games sometimes made player growth a little too predictable. You always knew who would become world class, you always knew who was worth signing. Hopefully, this year's system creates genuine uncertainty, because uncertainty creates excitement, and excitement creates stories. Overall, I'm really encouraged by these changes. Career mode has always been at its best when it tells unique football stories, not when it turns into Ultimate Team with contracts. If EA have generally improved scouting, academy development, and long-term play progression, then every save should naturally become more personal. And for career mode fans, that's exactly what we've been asking for. So we've covered managing your club, building your squad, and developing the next generation of stars, but EA haven't stopped there. They've also made improvements to player career, presentation, the UI, and a whole host of quality of life features that tie the entire mode together. Let's finish breaking down everything else coming to FC 27 career mode. The important thing to note is that player career isn't being left behind. Now, while a lot of the spotlight has understandably been on manager career, EA haven't forgotten about player career either, because whether you're creating your own footballing story or taking control of a real player, the goal this year is the same: make the experience feel more authentic, more immersive, and much more rewarding over the long term. Your career should feel personal. One thing career mode has always struggled with is making the journey feel unique. Too often, your player was just another number in the squad. You play matches, earn a higher rating, increase your overall, and repeat. There wasn't any real sense of progression beyond watching numbers go up. EA are aiming to make your career feel much more like a genuine footballing journey, where your performances, your decisions, and your development all matter much more over the case of a save. And honestly, that's exactly what player career is needed. Every decision should have more weight, as footballing careers aren't linear. Some players burst out onto the scene immediately, others need loan spells, others have setbacks through injuries or poor form. Some players become club legends, others spend their careers chasing opportunities. If FC 27 captures more of that unpredictability, player career instantly becomes more engaging, because every save starts telling a different story. Now let's move away from the big headline features for a moment, because some of the smaller improvements can actually have a huge impact over hundreds of hours. Presentation, menus, animations, transitions, all of those little things you see every single time you load career mode. They're easy to overlook unless you spend 50 or 60 hours staring at them. One criticism of previous career modes is that after a while, everything started looking the same. The menus, the inbox, the navigation, the presentation. Eventually, it all became part of the background. EA have refreshed several parts of the career mode interface to improve navigation and make important information easier to find. Now, this might not sound like the most exciting feature in the world, but trust me, if you've ever spent 20 minutes trying to find one specific menu, you'll appreciate it. The quality of life improvements is probably my favourite category every single year, because quality of life updates rarely make flashy trailers, but they're often the improvements you notice the most. Small frustrations disappear, menus become quicker, information becomes clearer, tasks take fewer button presses, and everything just feels smoother. And over a long career mode save, those little improvements really add up. It's the little things that keep you playing. Sometimes people focus too much on headline features, new transfers, new animations, new gameplay mechanics, but career mode players spend hundreds of hours inside these menus, reading scout reports, managing contracts, checking youth prospects, planning transfers. If all of those everyday interactions became smoother, the entire mode benefits. It's not the sort of improvement you'll notice after one match, it's the kind you'll appreciate after 100. One thing I really like about this deep dive overall is that EA haven't relied on one massive gimmick. Instead, they've improved lots of different areas: manager live, authentic managers, transfers, scouting, player development, presentation, quality of life. Individually, some of these changes might seem quite small. Together, they could completely change how career mode feels over an entire season. And honestly, that's a much smarter approach. For the first time in quite a while, career mode feels like it has one clear direction. Everything seems connected. The systems work together, your decisions matter more, the footballing world evolves around you, and career mode is trying to become a living football universe. Instead of just a collection of menus and matches, that's exactly what long-time fans have been asking for. Now, the only question is, have EA actually done enough? So, after going through every major feature in the career mode deep dive, there's only one thing left to answer. Is EA Sports FC 27 shaping up to deliver the best career mode we've seen in years, or shall we keep keeping our expectations in check? Let's wrap everything up. So what's the verdict? After going through everything EA has revealed, I genuinely think this is one of the most promising career mode deep dives we've had in years. Not because there's one revolutionary feature, but because almost every area of the mode has received meaningful attention. Instead of trying to reinvent career mode overnight, EA have focused on improving the experience you'll actually have every time you load up a save. And honestly, it's the right approach. If I had to pick the standout additions, Manager Live I think is right at the top of the list. The idea of jumping into live football scenarios throughout the season sounds brilliant. It's fresh, it's replayable, and it's exactly the sort of feature that could keep career mode alive long after launch. I'm also a huge fan of the manager market. For years, the football world has felt static. Now clubs should evolve naturally. Managers should move, vacancies should open, and every save has the potential to become its own unique footballing story. That's a massive step forward for immersion. The features I'm most interested to test is how tactical identity works. If clubs genuinely recruit players that suit their philosophy, appoint managers who fit their style, and continue playing recognisable football over multiple seasons, then that's going to make saves feel much more authentic. The same goes for scouting, player development, and the youth academy. Those systems don't grab headlines, but they're the backbone of every long-term career mode. But there are still questions, because I don't think it's perfect, and I don't think anyone should go into FC at 27 expecting perfection. A lot of these features sound fantastic on paper. The real question is execution. How often will Manager Life be updated? Will clubs actually behave intelligently in the transfer market? Will tactical identity remain consistent after 5 or 6 seasons? Will player development feel genuinely unpredictable? Those are all questions that only playing the game will answer. So while I'm optimistic, I'm also keeping my expectations realistic. If EA delivers on everything they've shown today, I genuinely believe FC 27 could have the strongest career mode we've seen in a very long time. Not because of flashy marketing, but because the entire mode appears to have more depth, more realism, and more replayability that we've had for years. For me, that's exactly what career mode has been crying out for. So based purely on today's deep dive, before we've actually got our hands on the game, I'm giving the FC 27 career mode deep dive an 8.5 out of 10. There's a lot to be excited about, and the direction is excellent. Now, EA just need to deliver when the game launches. But that's just my take. Now I want to hear yours. What's your favourite new career mode feature? Manager Live, Authentic Managers, the new manager market? Or are you excited about the improvements to scouting and youth development? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, because we'll be covering everything EA Sports FC 27 in the lead up to launch, including gameplay, clubs, ultimate team play, career, and so much more. We've also got weekly football, wrestling, and gaming content right here on RiotKick, so if that sounds like your thing, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Hawks, and I'll see you in the next one.